Good.
Namaste. So today we'll not start with a story, rather we will start with a wake-up call. So behind these human faces, there is a story, okay? And we human beings, we are so quick to judge the other person. We don't know their background. We meet a stranger, and we have thousand thoughts running in our mind regarding their dress, regarding how they look, and we keep associating. ये ऐसा होगा, वो वैसा होगा. We don't know anything, and yet we start judging. We meet somebody, we meet a friend, बातें बातों में we keep say, we tend to say something which might hurt the other person, and still we claim that we know everything about our friends. Still we don't know. So behind this human face, there is a history that is running, there's a story that is running, and until and unless we know that story, we should refrain ourselves. It's very difficult, but we must at least try this in practice. It's not for you, it's for me, it's for everybody. That we must try in practice of refraining ourselves whenever we start judging the other person, and forgive. So if this word is very very deep, when we say forgiveness, and rather than judging, let's just whenever we have these thoughts running in our mind, let's just take a pause, and let's try to delve into that story. And if we don't have time, we don't know anything, then let's shift our focus to something else. So with this, we'll start today's class, wherein we are talking about, so we have finished the traditional approaches, the legal approach, the institutional approach. Then we talked about the philosophical approach and historical approach. Now the focus of traditional approach was more on value based political theory. So they understood political science as in the form of institutions, in the form of history, in the form of legal framework, the laws, the constitution, the institutions, etc. But this contemporary approach, it takes a break, and it focuses more on empiricism. It focuses more on the physical evidences, the proofs, the scientific theory. Understand politics in a more scientific manner through research works, projects, etc. So we will start with the first first approach, that is behavioralism. Now this behavioralism, as it's stemming from the word behavior, so we can break down this from this word which is behavior, and we can see that it is focusing more on human behavior. It's not focusing on history, it's not focusing on the legal institutional approach or the institutions as such. Rather, it is saying let's just zoom in rather than zooming out. Let's zoom in and let's talk about human behavior. So this human behavior, rather than, so they understand politics in the form of processes rather than as a product. वो सिर्फ ऊपर ऊपरी बात नहीं कर रहे हैं कि चलो हिस्ट्री में देखते हैं कैसा रहा होगा, या फिर हम सिर्फ इंस्टीट्यूशन देख लेते हैं कि गवर्नमेंट कैसे फंक्शन कर रही है, गवर्नमेंट के डिफरेंट ऑर्गन्स कैसे फंक्शन कर रहे हैं. Rather, this approach focuses on human behavior. It focuses on individual. Okay. So this was actually this behavioralism as a word was coined by somebody else, some other political scientist. But this origin, we can find it in Charles E. Merriam. He is actually the founder of University of Chicago, the Chicago school basically. Like there are a lot of political, मतलब अमेरिका की यूनिवर्सिटी या फिर मतलब यूके की यूनिवर्सिटीज़, we see there are lot of political scientists, philosophers etc. तो उन्होंने अपने schools बना लिए, जैसे कि एक यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ, तो एक शिकागो स्कूल ऑफ थॉट बन चुका है. तो उनके ये फाउंडर रहे हैं चार्ल्स ई मरियम. एंड ये जो बिहेवियरलिज्म के जो ट्रेसेस है, हम इनसे वी कैन ट्रेस बैक टू हिम. बट दिस अप्रोच was popularized by David Easton. So we'll study him in detail today only. Now his book was New Aspects of Politics. Now when we talk about new aspects, of course it's taking a break from the traditional aspects of politics, understanding politics. What is politics? Again, we'll keep reiterating. It's not something negative connotation. It's about community participation. It's about how the society is functioning as a group. There are rules, regulations that we make, there are elections that are held, we form, we elect the government, then how those government institutions are taking the decisions, etc. Then coming back, the behavioralism, the focus of this approach basically is in behavior. So they focus more on science. They don't like this normative term, they don't like the philosophical term. Rather they focus more on sciences. So sciences में क्या होता है? There are, you can experiment, you can find out the proof, the conclusions made on the scientific evidences. So they believe in natural sciences and behavioral sciences. So now they focus on process, they do not focus on institutions, they believe in empiricism, value-free sciences basically. So the philosophical approach was focusing too much on values. क्या होना चाहिए, the philosophical approach, no? So what should be, ideal society क्या है, जैसे कि प्लेटो की ideal society क्या है, utopia we generally say. But these people, they say that forget about the utopia, let's focus more on how the society is in present. So like real like we talk about, no, the realist approach. This approach basically again focuses on the present. अभी लोग किस तरीके से behave करते हैं. Now there are a lot of people, they believe that humans are rational. तो जितने भी philosophers थे, we can trace it back to Plato, Aristotle. So they believed that men are rational. Aristotle believed, then Locke believed that men are rational. But you know, these people, they believe that men are irrational. For example, we'll focus on Graham Wallace. He himself is a psychologist and he's writing Human Nature in Politics. He believes that humans are irrational. So let's just focus on the way they are taking the decisions so that we can make better decision making, right? Then you have, they focus, the third thing is they focus on human behavior, as we've already talked about this. So this human behavior, it's not easy, it's not simple to understand, it's extremely complex. Why? Because the same person may react differently in different situations. I'm saying something today, I might say something else tomorrow, even if I'm put into the same condition, same circumstance. So we human beings, we're never, constant. हमारी चीज़ों में ना बड़ा discontinuity नजर आता है और हम खुद ही अपनी बात को contradict करते हैं most of the times, right? Then you have how people behave in reality. So this focuses again on political processes. Now those processes includes political violence, it includes political socialization, how the political parties, they're able to mobilize people, what are different pressure groups that are there, the populist policies that are followed by the political processes. So they were also focusing on elections, they were also focusing on how the society is organizing themselves. Then also the political ideologies such as the centrist ideology, leftist and the rightist and leftist. So in the rightist, like you will talk about the BJP, pro-rightist policies उनकी हमेशा से ही रही है. तो उनके जो काम करने का तरीका है या जो policies है, उसमें हमको rightist approach नजर आता है. They are focusing more on rather than focusing, zooming into the individual's life, like ऊपर से they feel, they talk about the capitalist society per se, कैसे business को grow करना है. Whereas leftist अगर आप देखेंगे तो बहुत ज़्यादा वो लोगों में कैसे वो socialist policies adopt करते हैं, लोगों तक कैसे welfare policies पहुंचानी है. Whereas centralist जो एक वक्त तक कांग्रेस हुआ करती थी, लेकिन अब तो it's more of a pressure group rather than a political party. But still, थोड़ा सा amalgamation of both they'll take. Then you have, we're done with this. So we'll see just proponents of this behavioral approach. So of course one was Charles E. Merriam, जिसमें हम traces find out करते हैं. David Easton, who made it more popularized. There are other names like Graham Wallace. He himself was a psychologist and he founded London School of Economics. And he was an educationist. So he's talking about human nature and politics. So let's understand, जैसे ये politicians होते हैं, we don't know India bloc कहाँ तक successful रहेगा. आज तो इतनी सारी political parties इकट्ठे आ गई है. We don't know, कल चलेगा वो कि नहीं चलेगा. Human behavior, we don't know. कल some party might leave that India bloc, right? Arthur Bentley, he's another. His book is process of government. Process of government, you understand? Process, sorry. So not focusing on product, not focusing on the institution of government, rather it is focusing on process of government. So Arthur Bentley, then he's an American political scientist. Then you have G.G. Cartland, Science and Method of Politics. Again, you understand from their book's name that what their focus is. So it's focusing more on science. Then Robert Dahl, he's focusing on polyarchy. Polyarchy form of democracy. We'll study him in detail when we talk about the theory, the democracy as a process or democracy as a value. Now, Robert Dahl, he says polyarchy is different. He is differentiating it with democracy from democracy. And he say polyarchy means no one rule, rather the power lies in many. So it's ruled by many. Then Philip Converse, again I think he's an American political scientist, and David Easton we'll study in detail. She can take a screenshot. Alright, so now we'll study about David Easton, who actually popularized this entire approach. So he has written a book, I think it's 1967. He actually wrote this book in 1953, another paper that he wrote in 1967. So that paper name I'll tell you in a while. So he has written a book which is Political Science, an inquiry into the state of political science. So again, just see from the name of the book we can get this thing that he is again focusing more on political science, not political philosophy. So what is his aim? His aim is merely to convert the political science into a pure science. He is totally rejecting the philosophical approach, the historical approach, the legal institutional approach. He's obviously, behavioralism, we just read right now, what they focus on, behavior of an individual, how an individual is participating in a political process, right? So what does he do? He criticizes that, he actually believes that there is no great philosopher after Marx and J.S. Mill. He believes that these two people have been revolutionary. Uske baad se jisne jo bhi likha hai, that has actually led to the decline of political theory. So he believes that only these two people have said wonders. Rest, he doesn't believe in whatever the political scientists have said after them. And we will study both of them in detail, J.S. Mill and Marx. Then he also criticizes historicists. So historicists who believe in historical approach, who is taking a historical approach to understand politics as a process. So in which we have Sabine, we also talked about Lasky, and Sabine and Dunning. Politics as shoot and history as root. Remember the historical approach that we spoke about. Then you have philosophical approach. He's criticizing the philosophical approach because it's too much value laden and they're not basing themselves on scientific evidences. So their theories are just armchair theories. What does armchair theories mean? Means these political scientists, they're just sitting, relaxing in their room and they're writing. They're not going on the field and researching and doing the surveys, understanding things on the ground. Rather, they're just relaxing in their rooms and they're writing big books. Then he's criticizing the institutionalists who focus too much on the institutions, the government institutions, 3 different organs. So he says that they all are static, rather than David Easton believes that politics is a dynamic process, because he's believing that politics is a process. So he's rejecting all of these approaches. He wrote a paper, and in that paper, it's actually a paper that he wrote and he took a lecture also, in which he said 8 intellectual foundational schools of behavioralism, or foundational principles of behavioralism, tenets of behavioralism. मतलब ये बिहेवियरल जो अप्रोच जो पॉलिटिकल थ्योरी को समझती है वो इन 8 एस्पेक्ट्स का होना बहुत ज़रूरी है. पहला क्या है? रेगुलरिटीज, वेरिफिकेशन ऑफ कोर्स वी कैन वेरीफाई, जो भी आप प्रूफ ले रहे हो, जो भी आप चीज़ें कर रहे हो, आप उसको वेरीफाई कर पा रहे हो, राइट. द थर्ड इज टेक्निक माने जो भी आप methodology adopt कर रहे हो, that methodology itself has to be perfect. Okay, that means you have to choose it very very wisely, and there has to be certain method rather than just sitting and relaxing in a room and writing big books. Rather, choose an appropriate method, do surveys, conduct field analysis, and for that there should be a technique, right? Then he said yes. So the fourth one was quantification. You're able to quantify the data. Integration means that we understand that this contemporary approach is all about interdisciplinary approaches. So we talk about political socialism, political psychology. So likewise we are able to integrate. कुछ भी चीज़ वो एक straight jacket या फिर watertight compartments में नहीं देख रहे हैं. So this should be able to integrate between different subjects. Political history, political sociology, political economy, etc. Then integration, you understood value neutrality. You should not focus too much on values. Rather, when you talk about science, the natural sciences, it should be very very unbiased. Then it's so difficult, like we humans, we are never unbiased. हम हमेशा अपने biases घुसाते ही हैं. Yesterday also we spoke about this. Then systemization, systematic होना चाहिए, haphazard नहीं होना चाहिए. एक दायरा बनाओ, एक political framework बनाओ जिसके अंदर रहते रहते आप चीज़ों को analyze कर पा रहे हैं. And this, of course, pure science, because his entire purpose was to convert the political science as a pure science so that it looks more rational. Actually उस time पे जब behavioralism बहुत ज़्यादा popularize हो रहा था, तब it was about the time was world war. तो उस दौरान world war end ही हुआ था. तो different economies colonialism से बाहर निकल कर अपनी अपनी दुनिया बना रही थी, अपनी अपनी nation states पे फोकस कर रही थी. तो सबके अपने अपने challenges थे. तो उनका चैलेंज क्या था कि अपनी स्टेट को दोबारा से बनाना, किस तरीके से इलेक्शंस होंगे, किस तरीके से गवर्नमेंट बनेगी. अब क्योंकि कॉलोनियलिज्म से वो लोग पीछा छुड़ाकर अपने अपने नेशंस बना रहे थे. देन दिस अप्रोच वाज दिस केम फॉरवर्ड कि अब शुड बी बहुत हो गया है. अब लेट्स फोकस ऑन present scenario and let's analyze human behavior so that we are able to. क्योंकि उस टाइम पे जब 1945 जब इतना ज़्यादा वर्ल्ड वॉर हो रहे थे, इतने सारे वॉर्स हो रहे थे दुनिया भर में, तो there were lot of other schools who were writing so much. There were historians जो भर कर किताबें लिख रहे थे. So political scientists, they have taken a back seat. तो उनको बोलने के लिए भैया उठो, अब सब लिख रहे हैं, तुम भी कोई किताबें लिखो, तुम भी कुछ why it is important, because these political scientists उनकी किताबें पढ़ के ही तो जो decision makers हैं वो informed decision making करेंगे. So that is why what they do is very very important. तो ये था उसका context किस तरीके से behavioralism emerge हुआ. Okay, you can take a screenshot. Alright, now we will see that what are the positive and the negative aspects of behavioralism. Now, positive was that it led to halt of the decline of political theory. Now, what happens? There are behavioralists who are charging the traditionalist for the decline of political theory. Then after behavioralists, there will be post-behavioralists who will charge behavioralists for the decline of political theory. So आपस में just like the politicians, they play a blame game, so they are charging each other. So behavioralism, it led to halt of the decline that led because of the traditionalists. The traditionalists, they were focusing too much on values, but behavioralists, they focus more on scientific mannerism to teach political theory. So then, they encouraged research because they thought that, it is better that you do the experimental field surveys, etc. So they encouraged research, they standardized, the theory. Sometimes when we are just flowing in philosophical arguments, we try to go haywire. But when we are, bringing things in a scientific, more experimental level, so we try to, make a conceptual framework, we try to narrow down things, we try to do the research work, do the field surveys, etc. Then it focused on politics as process rather than just as institutions or just as history. What is the current scenario? So this was the positive aspects of behavioralism. Now negative, it was criticized by this, of course. तो कुछ है, there is a thesis, there will be antithesis, and there will be synthesis. So that is how this Western political thought or political theory, international relations as a discipline per se has evolved. So each person will say something, the other person will counter argue. Now this was criticized by traditionalists that they charge behavioralism for narrow scope and relevance. कि आप क्योंकि आप अपने दायरे बहुत कम कर देते हैं. Philosophical होता है तो you're able to talk about meta theory, you're able to go beyond theory. Right, so it is narrow scope and relevance. It has a narrow scope and relevance, and then resource expensive. Then a lot of complicated terms. आप unnecessarily simple चीज़ों को unnecessarily complex बना रहे हैं. So this was what traditionalists talked about behavioralists. Then there were Marxists who believe in Karl Marx. Then there were also two schools that we will study in detail: the Orthodox school and one more school as in the gradual lessons. Then Marxists charge behavioralism for status quest. Status quest means they बस आपने जो they're choosing the easy way method that जो है उसको observe कर लिया और उसी के बारे में theory लिख दी. So it's very easy for you, and you're just trying to make status quest. You are you are just trying to make the things as they are. आप कुछ बदलना नहीं चाहते. But when you're focusing on philosophy, you are trying to focus on what should be. What is an ideal scenario? What is an ideal democracy? What are rights? How do we preserve them? So what should be, आप उसकी तरफ कदम बढ़ा. Alright. So John Plumnatz, he teaches in the University of Montenegro, and वहाँ पर वो पढ़ाते हैं, and I just told you that his theory of democracy is very famous. So he says political theory is not an escape mechanism, rather but an arduous calling. So escape mechanism नहीं है ये कि आप बस ऑब्जर्व करो और थ्योरी बना दो और बस और बैठ जाओ अपने कमरे में. नो, he says it's an arduous calling, बहुत rigorous है. So you need to argue, you need to counter argue, you need to critically think, you need to open the doors of the brain, and you need to understand theory behind theory, you need to go to the metaphysics. आप इन सब चीज़ों में जाओ, and it takes time. Okay. Then Dante Germino, he teaches in an American university, and he says political theory is actually experiential, not experimental science. So experience करो, आप जो आपने experience किया है उसके basis पर आप सोच रहे हो, analyze कर रहे हो, and then you're writing things. So he says behavioralism over quantification focuses on over quantification and under theoretization. तो theory नहीं बना रहे हैं. theory का होना बहुत important है क्योंकि theory एक conceptual framework है. We understood political theory के क्या क्या फायदे हैं, वो डिफाइन करता है, एक वे फॉरवर्ड देता है कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, गवर्नमेंट, सोसाइटी पर से को. सो इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट दैट यू आर थियोरेटाइजिंग, एंड ही इज चार्जिंग देम कि आप बस क्वांटिफाई कर रहे हो फैक्ट्स और उसके बाद आप कुछ नहीं कर रहे हो, थ्योरी नहीं बना रहे हो. देन यू स्ट्रॉस, he teaches in a German university, and he says that behavioralism, now he again focuses on modern philosophy. So when he used to teach in German university, he used to focus on the modern political thought, how it has evolved from Plato, Hannah Arendt, till Hannah Arendt, and so many philosophers that went in between, and unko understand all of them, and he's going back and he's reviving the philosophy per se. So he says behavioralism actually has led to the crisis in political theory. तो बिहेवियरलिस्ट ट्रेडिशनलिस्ट को बोल रहे हैं कि तुम्हारी वजह से पॉलिटिकल थ्योरी का डिक्लाइन हुआ है, और लियो स्ट्रॉस ही इज क्रिटिसाइजिंग बिहेवियरलिस्ट दैट आपकी वजह से पॉलिटिकल थ्योरी का डिक्लाइन हुआ है. And all of these negative aspects have actually led to the decline of the school of behavioralism. And after this we will have post-behavioralist. Okay, so political science, pure science, and then it focuses on applied science. So ये behavioralism था, ये post behavioralism है. Applied science क्या है? Problem solving at the macro level. तो behavioralism क्या था? Too much focus on individuals. इंडिविजुअल्स क्या बोलते हैं, क्या करते हैं, किस तरीके से उनका बिहेवियर है, क्या रैशनल थिंकिंग पीछे जा रही है, वो बिहेवियरलिज्म था. बट अब अप्लाइड साइंस है, सो यू आर फोकसिंग अगेन, यू आर जूमिंग आउट एंड यू आर फोकसिंग ऑन प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग एट द मैक्रो लेवल. अब मैक्रो लेवल पे क्या प्रॉब्लम्स है, क्या चैलेंजेस है. फॉर एग्जांपल बहुत सारे रिजीम चेंज है. फॉर एग्जांपल इन मॉलदीव्स रिसेंटली और द मिलिट्री कूज दैट हैपन. तो रिजीम चेंज एक बहुत बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है. अब उसको आप कैसे सॉल्व कर रहे हैं, तो ये पॉलिटिकल साइंटिस्ट आएंगे, एनालाइज करेंगे चीज़ों को, देखेंगे, एंड देन दे विल help the political decision makers to take a rational decision, right? So thesis was normative political philosophy. We started with too much focus on values. उसका antithesis आया behavioralism, too much focus on science. फिर उसका synthesis आया post behavioralism, which says that it has to be an applied science. So it's solving the fact value dichotomy. Facts, behavioralism, value, normative. ये डायकोटोमी में मत देखो, इनको दोनों को अलग अलग मत देखो. just amalgamate the two and the things would be at its best. So what it was focusing on, continuation of tradition of finding solutions to present political challenges, and then giving the solutions to the political decision makers. Exponents कौन थे? John Rawls. He says he's again reviving the traditional political philosophy where he focuses on the value of justice. So his theory of justice has been revolutionary. Then we'll study in detail Amartya Sen. He talked about poverty को आप सिर्फ income के level पे मत देखो, just look at it in terms of capability. So he went ahead to talk about capability approach. Then you have C.B. Macpherson. He's giving the theory of democracy, wherein we are talking about his theory of participatory democracy. So these people, they are reviving post behavioralism. They're reviving this, so they're actually solving this fact value dichotomy. And then you also have Habermas, who gave the very famous legitimation crisis. So every country, we spoke this in our first lesson also, that every country seeks legitimacy. So that legitimacy has to be like, अगर आप सब कुछ अच्छा कर रहे हैं तो पीपल विल बी सपोर्टिव टू यू, तो वो आपकी जो भी आपके एक्शंस होंगे वो लेजिटिमेट होंगे. सो देन इफ यू नॉट, एक्चुअली वी विल स्टडी दिस पर्सन इन डिटेल एज वेल. आई कीप सेइंग दिस बिकॉज दिस this discipline is so big, its subject is so big. And coming back to what Habermas says, that if you are against the people, कोई भी एक गवर्नमेंट है कुछ भी लोगों के खिलाफ करती है और बहुत ज़्यादा कोर्सिव एक्शंस लेती है, सो इट विल लूज इट्स लेजिटिमेसी. सो लाइक आपको सबको साथ लेकर चलना पड़ता है. तो आप फिर पावर, जैसे स्टेट है तो पनिशमेंट, वो पावर अपना जो कोर्सिव एक्शन है लोगों के ऊपर, जैसे इंडिया में अगर आप देखते हैं अफसा, यूएपीए, ये सारे लॉज, सेडिशन लॉ, बड़े ग्रेव लॉज हैं. तो आपको उन तक जाने की कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है. कंसेंट मतलब डिसेंट को दबाने के लिए वहां तक मत जाओ. तो लोगों को अपने तरफ खींचने के लिए ऐसे एक्शंस करते रहो दैट पीपल विल फॉलो यू on their own. So this is what he talked about, legitimacy crisis. So this was all about behavioralism. Now going back, so to where we started today's lesson, that was, to focus before we judge the other person, it's important that we also, understand the story behind these faces. So it's just a face, but there's too much, the lived experience of that person, the values, so many things that goes behind, and it's very stupid of us to judge that person within seconds. So we need to bring that into practice. So you write in the comment box what is for you, how do you shed all those judgments that come up, and what action will you take to put that into practice. Okay, so now I'll take one more lesson in which I will revise the entire political theory. Till then, goodbye. See you next time.